G'day, I'm Paul. When Rivian announced it was doing a ute, I was like, this thing looks so cool. It looks adventure ready. Then they announced they were going to do an SUV, and it's this thing here. It's called the Rivian R1S. We had a spare day in Los Angeles, and I thought, let's rent one and see what it's like. So yeah, I'm going to run you through what this is. This is basically the top spec version. It's called the Adventure. It has the quad motor setup, so it is the go fast version. This is priced from $92,000 here in the US. If that is too expensive, the entire range kicks off at a little under 80 grand. So it is a whole chunk of money, but it is a whole chunk of SUV with some really cool features that I'll run you through. This competes with things, it actually doesn't really have any direct competitors, but if you were to kind of line it up with other 7-seat electric SUVs, you're talking Kia EV9, Tesla Model X, and also the Mercedes EQS SUV. It's that type of vehicle, but definitely has very different intentions. Now, we are going to do a review of this. We won't be able to do any off-roading, and I'll explain how you can get your off-roading fixed soon. But if you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you can use the time codes that are on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you can find out every single time I review a rented car. Now let's talk about design. You've got a stack of colours to choose from. The most expensive optional ones are $2,500. That is a lot of money for optional colours, but anyway, and that's US dollars as well. Now just on the design, this stands out so much when you see it in traffic. Like this whole section here is an indicator. When it lights up, you've got a big bank there of LED headlights, and then you have this LED strip along the front there. This has an incredible presence out on the road, and you know, every time I see one, I sort of just go, whoa, that thing looks unreal. So yeah, it is definitely a very cool vehicle, and you know, the people that buy these, I guess, want to be seen. And same goes for stuff like the Cybertruck. It is just a totally different design, and it skews down that path of EVs looking like science projects, but I think this is a good science project. Now, this is very off-road capable and off-road friendly. I'm going to run you through some of those stats in a second, but it is designed for people who want adventure. It's got a big old battery pack. You can get an even bigger battery pack as well to get you where you need to go. And there are a lot of specs here that will make this a vehicle that can virtually go anywhere. So cooling down the front here for the battery system. You have rated recovery points, and I do like there how you've got a little rubber section there as well, so you're not scratching the vehicle. You basically hook on, and then it can rub on that without sort of leaving any lasting sort of marks on the vehicle. Sort of piano black down the front here, and then that sort of matte finished plastic. You've got radar sensors, you've got ultrasonic, you've got cameras. It's not like Tesla where they're just locking themselves in on cameras. They really are sort of accepting of all the different technologies here, which is really cool. I mentioned before, full LED headlights, a little bit of aero down the bottom here. You do need a bit of aero because this is a big old chunk of car, over 3 tons here in this specification. So, you know, they're trying to cut as much as they can out in terms of drag, but, you know, just look at it. It's not exactly the most sort of aero-friendly vehicle. Down here, you've got a big old set of 21-inch alloy wheels. You can get a variation of wheel and tyre combinations here. This is a highway tyre, but you can also go down the path of an all-terrain that's fitted to 20-inch alloy wheels, and they go all the way up to 22s. So you do have a stack of different options there to pick from. Beneath the skin there, you've got adaptive air suspension, so hopefully that means this rides well. You've got little removable aero covers there as well, and a big old set of brakes behind there too, because you need a good braking system on a vehicle that weighs as much as this does. One of the cameras nestled just into here. You've got another camera up the top here, and then another camera on the wing mirror there as well. Rivian logo just there, a bit more aero here as well behind the tyre, and plastic down the side here. So the whole intention of that is if you are doing some off-roading, that is a sacrificial material, so you can scratch that up and it's not too big of a deal. Just on build quality, I sort of had a bit of a look around the vehicle before. Seems okay, but there are sort of a few little sort of instances here where panels aren't flush. You can see down here as well that that's sort of slightly out of alignment too. They are delivering a stack of these vehicles now, and Rivian is reaching record production. They're focusing on this SUV. They've got the Ute, the R1T. They're also doing, they have a partnership with Amazon as well to do vehicles for Amazon. And then in addition to that, they're about to, well, soon going to launch a smaller platform as well for a more compact vehicle. So looking forward to seeing what that's like. When the vehicle's unlocked, this is how you open the door. You just pull on that, sort of pretty straightforward setup. Privacy glass, you have a glass roof basically all the way down the back there. you have a lot of accessory mounts as well. So from the factory, you can get this with tents and stuff that sit on the roof. So it really is for the adventurous person that goes camping and stuff like that. I go camping under the stars too, as long as there's 5 of them, and I have a door. Another Rivian logo up the back here. Look how big this thing is. So 7 seats, you've got your second row up here, then third row here, then storage behind the third row as well. So put some numbers up on the screen there in terms of the dimensions of the vehicle, but it is a fairly decent size. Now, in terms of off-road specs, at the front you have just over 35 degrees of approach angle, a little over 34 degrees at the rear, so it is a proper off-roader in that regard. But when you do put it into off-road mode, the ride height can go from around 200 mil, which is the standard sort of driving height, to over 370 millimeters. So it is an enormous lift there, giving you all the clearance you need under the vehicle. There's no diffs and stuff like that because it is just a flat floor. The weighting depth, get this, when you do have the vehicle in its highest setting, is over a meter. I mean, that is incredible stuff. Here on the quad motor as well, you have such finite control over each wheel that allows you to do precise torque vectoring and also precise wheel management when the vehicle is off-road. This is far superior to any sort of mechanical differentials because you have computer control over every single wheel. Okay, so back of the R1S, you've got another LED strip that runs all the way along the back there, individual Rivian lettering. Over here, you've got R1S, shark fin aerial, and if you have a look at the design, it is very boxy, but this gives you maximum space. It means that you can cram as much as you want there behind the third row. So let me know what you think about this. It is a pretty unique looking vehicle. It's a pretty unique proposition. There is a chance this will come to Australia. We're fortunate with electric vehicles that they're very easy to turn into right-hand drive. Well, not very easy, but quite easy compared to an internal combustion car because you don't have to route yourself around other components. So would you like to see this in Australia? I know I definitely would. What do you think about the price as well? Do you think it's too expensive? Let me know what you reckon in the comments section below. So we are in the R1S. This is what the key looks like. So you've got lock, unlock, boot, frunk, and it's actually got like a clip on it. So you can clip it to your jeans or something like that, or to your adventure pants, shorts, and then a Rivian logo on the back. It's a proximity sensing key, so you can just approach the car, grab the door handle, and then just like a Tesla to start it, you just push the brake pedal and away it goes. So this interior, I tell you what, it looks absolutely sensational. I think they have done such a good job with just giving this a high-end premium look and also just, I don't know, making it feel adventure ready. There's a lot of sort of hidden quirks and features here that I'll run you through shortly, but to me, they've done a really cool job here of making this a very unique vehicle. So let me get that out of the way. Now, what about your touch points? Let's start with that. So soft along the dashboard there, you've got some nice stitching. The whole interior is vegan, so there's no actual leather products. Soft there in the center and soft on the doors as well. How soft is it all? We've got our durometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you do want to see how the Rivian R1S compares to other cars we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description below. Now, build quality. So I mentioned before the panels that kind of were a bit funny in terms of fit. Did notice that when you're sort of opening and closing this door, it sort of creaks a little bit in there, which isn't great. So yeah, and when the sound system's running as well, it sort of vibrates a lot of the cabin. So that stuff isn't great, but I guess you can put that down to teething pains with a new company. But for the most part, it actually doesn't look too bad. It's not a horrific sight in any regard. Okay, so let's talk about infotainment. And can you hear that noise? That is the compressor running. It basically services the height adjustable suspension. It needs to be charged. It is very noisy, so just something worth pointing out. So you've got a big infotainment system and then a big screen ahead of the driver. I love the fact that there is a screen ahead of the driver. I just, Model 3, Model Y, I really dislike how there isn't just something there, either a head-up display or one of these small digital displays, because it really makes a huge difference. 12.3 inches is the one ahead of the driver, and then the infotainment display is a little over 15 inches in size. Now, I've only been playing with this for a short while, so there's probably some stuff that I'm going to miss here from Rivian diehards, but I'll run you through all the cool stuff that I have found. So navigation, built in as standard. Same sort of thing as Tesla, where you can basically do satellite overlays, you can look for chargers, put in destinations, and it uses traffic to tell you the best way to go to your destination. So works pretty well. happy with all that. Climate control menus, so you have dual zone automatic climate control up the front here. Then what you can do is dive to the other sides of the car. So you can see here, if we go back to the second row, you can switch on all of your climate controls there. And then the third row as well, you're in full charge up the front here. You've got dog mode, similar to what you have or pet mode rather, similar to what you have in a Tesla. Heated steering wheel, heated and cooled seats as well here for the front row. Now it is interesting as well, look at these little vents. So it's all automated in terms of the direction that it heads in, but you can take full control yourself. So when you close them, actually physically close that vent down the bottom there, and then you can move them around just using your finger there. So two-step process. I guess it's one of those things that could frustrate you, but to be honest, now that I've owned a Tesla for 3 or 4 years now, you set your vents once and you don't really think about them again. So I think this system would be fine and nothing too crazy. The thing I loved about this is camp mode. So obviously, if you're buying one of these, you're the adventure type, you want to go camping, they have some really cool features here to make that an easier process. There's a power outlet in the boot that I'll run you through a little bit later on, but you can basically change the energy use of the vehicle. So if you're camping for a week, you obviously don't want the vehicle doing all of that stuff that it slowly saps energy from. So things like Sentry mode and a Tesla uses a fair bit of energy. This is the same sort of thing. There are some features here that are always going to be running. You can actually switch all of them off, leave it on normal, or if you do want climate control running, for example, while you're sleeping in the vehicle, you can also leave it on as well. You can schedule timeouts for how long you want your power outlet to be running. And then switch it off if you do start running out of battery. You can also level the vehicle as well if you're sleeping inside it. So it will adjust each chamber of that air suspension so that the vehicle is sitting level. Camp courtesy, so you don't annoy other campers. You can turn off exterior lights, sounds, etc. And then you also have the ability to run floodlights. So similar to what Ford has with the Ranger on 360 zone lighting, it'll actually use LEDs around the vehicle to light up your camp area. So that's a really cool sort of setup there as well. On your charging menu, this is obviously where you set charge limits and also customize the amount of power you want to be pulling out of your outlets. So fairly sort of typical stuff. Drive modes. So they split them here between on-road, off-road and trailers. So on-road you can change everything from ride height to suspension feel, stability control, depending on how you want that to work, and the amount of brake regen as well. I love this. If you swipe over, this gives you a really detailed look at the rest of the vehicle. So you've got a compass, elevation, motor temperatures as well, so you know if you're working at too high, battery temperature, just a really cool setup. And then when you flick over to the off-road menu, this is where it basically changes all of those to show different things instead of what you're used to seeing. So very nice setup there. And then same story with the trailer menu. You've got all of your trailer settings here as well. So very happy with that. Over on the car menu, this is where you can change all of the vehicle settings, such as your colors inside the cabin. Like a Tesla as well, you adjust your wing mirrors and steering wheel using the steering wheel. So you can just use these dials here and that will adjust whether the steering wheel is where it is or the mirrors are where they are. You have the ability to lock and unlock your rear windows so the kids don't play with them, and also open and close the tailgate. There's also a car wash mode as well. And then in addition to all of that, you've got all of your regular settings here and Gear Guard. So Gear Guard is basically, I guess, their version of Sentry. So it allows the camera to run if there is an incident outside the vehicle, and it also runs as a dash cam as well. So it's a really comprehensive setup. I'm going to touch on the stereo. So when Rivian launched, they offered a Meridian sound system. So that's a high-end brand you'll find on things like Jaguar, Land Rover. They got rid of that and instead went with an in-house system, and speaker count went down from 20 to 18 speakers here in the R1S to a brand that is unknown. Sound system really isn't amazing, and for a car like this you want high-end audio. Even if you buy like a base model Tesla Model Y, you get really high-end audio and it sounds fantastic. This, on the other hand, really doesn't sound very good, and it's a bit disappointing when you consider that you've got your radio, you've got Spotify, TuneIn, Alexa, everything here to play with, but then the audio quality isn't very good. So that's a quick wrap of that. Screen ahead of the driver, you've got a map display along with critical functions to give you an idea of how everything is going while you're driving. Let's talk safety. You have autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. front and rear cross traffic alert. You have a lane keeping assistant, so it's part of a semi-autonomous driving program they have. Tested it out on the freeway before. It seems to work okay. I'd probably need to spend a bit more time with it to get a better idea, but similar to the Tesla system, it guides you within the lanes and controls the steering for you as well. Now, front and rear parking sensors and a set of cameras, but I've got to tell you, the cameras aren't very good. So I'm going to flick this on. Have a look at this. The camera quality is not very good at all. Like, it is super low resolution and grainy. Yeah, I'm just really surprised by that. Typically, you know, with a vehicle like this, you'd expect the cameras to be really high end, especially given cameras are so cheap. So yeah, a little bit disappointing there, and I think they probably need to do a much better job there with the camera system. And this is what the horn sounds like. Now let's chat practicality, and we'll start off with your connectivity. So in here, center console, you've got two USB-C ports. You have a wireless phone charger just here on this mat. There is some other cool stuff here as well. So I'll run you through the cup holders first. You've got two here. Sort of fits the coffee cup in without any dramas there. But have a look at this. They've actually got a wireless Bluetooth speaker that basically sits within its own little holder. It's got its own charger, USB connectivity, and then speaker controls as well. So love that. That is a fantastic idea. On your other storage, you've got loads of storage down here and also in the door pockets. There is no glove box. The interesting thing here with the storage, it's not exactly the most practical storage, because you have this area here to dump your things if you need them, but there's no dividers or anything here. So if you do put anything there, it kind of just slides around. This is a wireless phone charger, is silly as well, because once you put your phone on there, it's just going to slide around when you accelerate. So it'll just stop charging every single time you move. So it's not exactly the best layout, I don't think. You do have a couple of cubby holes here under the seat as well for your valuables, but outside of that, this is all you have available for storage. On the comfort front, I already mentioned dual zone climate control with heated and cooled seats. Seats are actually quite comfortable, and I love this design. Got the Rivian there in the center. It is just a very cool looking setup. They've done a fantastic job there with the seats, both electrically adjustable for driver and front passenger. Now, second row, what's it like? More of that creaking door handle. So knee room is pretty good. Toe room is pretty good as well. Headroom is great. So you've got the big glass roof here and a glass roof for your third row as well. So mat pockets here. They're the flexi sort of extendable type as well, which is cool. Screen down here for controlling your second zone of climate for both sides. Heated seats for the two outboard seats as well. Look at this, USB-C slots up the top here and down here. Then you also have a power outlet beneath the screen here as well. So a lot of options here to take energy from the battery and put it into your devices and other bits and pieces. Then you have a center armrest there with two cup holders as well. Now, does the window go down all the way? So it's auto up and down. God, look at that. They have thought of everything. Very nice. Now, we're going to jump into the third row as well, but I may as well mention now that you actually can adjust second row forwards and backwards. You can also recline as well if you do want to have a little bit of a rest. Yeah, let's jump to the third row and see how much room there is. Third row, can you actually fit some adults? So there's a button up the top here that you push. It slides that out of the way, and then you clamber on in. Let's see what it's like. Okay, so I'm going to just put this back to where it was. So it's a little bit forward of where it was. So if you did have someone in the second row there, they would sort of be leaning sort of forward a little bit. But Sean, do you want to just lift that handle a touch? I'll bring this back just for argument's sake. All right, perfect. Let's see how that goes. I might drop that down as well. Yeah, look, I mean, when the seat is in its normal position, there really isn't much knee room here. Toe room's fine, which is great, but knee room isn't very good. If you do drop that center armrest down, it gives you a little bit more space to sort of stretch out a touch, but nothing sort of too crazy. Headroom, on the other hand, is pretty good. Keep in mind, though, it is a glass roof, so it means that if it is hot outside, that's going to be radiating heat on you. You do have a little sort of cubby holder on the side here that has a USB-C outlet, cup holder, and then you have air vents here as well. So I think for kids, this is going to be a great space. Adults, not so much, but you know, it's fine for what it is. Let's have a look behind this row, though. I'm keen to see how much room there is back there. Okay, so let's have a look. You've got a powered tailgate, 2 sections. It's like an old Range Rover. Top section, bottom section. Bottom section isn't electrically powered though, which means when you go to close it, all it does is beep at you. You've got to manually lift this first. But I do like these LED lights that shine down here and give you an idea of what's happening. So you have almost 500 litres of cargo space available back here, which is fantastic. It's a really usable space. Underfloor storage as well there for cables and odds and ends. Like this system here too, so flexible racking in the second row there with tie downs. Have a look at this. This is probably the coolest feature here. Given this is so off-road focused, it has a built-in air compressor, and it means that you can basically let the tires down for off-road driving and then pump them back up. You don't need to have a separate air compressor when you go off-roading, which is just another thing you've got to worry about. So I love that. And then behind here as well, you've got another power outlet, 1500 watts, which is great, 1.5 kilowatts, and a 12 volt outlet. So really cool setup there. Now, what does it look like when you drop your third row? So let's get that out of the way. That expands the space to 1300 litres, but you can see here that it climbs. So it's not really a flat floor in that regard. Then if you do want to go mega space, you can drop the second row. So one push of that, another push of that. That expands the space to around 2,500 litres. So it's like a minivan. It's quite an impressive setup with a decent access port over here as well. So pretty practical car, I reckon. Now, in addition to the cargo space in the boot, you have over 300 litres available under the bonnet, and that is even self-driven as well. Double tap of the key or a press inside opens the bonnet and reveals the big space there. Before we go for a drive, let me run you through charging. Watch this, you press that and voila, that all opens up. So you have both AC and DC charging available. It can charge at a max rate of a little over 200 kilowatts, but the average is around 120. It's a 135 kilowatt hour battery here. This is the large pack. They do a smaller one, and they also do a larger battery pack, but you can only get the large pack with the quad motor. So you can't do quad motor and then max. So that is what you get. Driving range of around 320 miles, which is over 500 kilometres, and that's an EPA range, which is typically a little stricter than what we have when it comes down to WLTP. So that is probably a genuine 500 kilometres worth of driving. And then you have an average economy of over 30 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres, which is pretty meaty. So we've just hit the road in the R1S. First thing I'm going to point out, and probably the thing that has surprised me the most, is how firm the ride is. Like, I know we're on 21s, but tyre pressures are sort of 42 PSI, which is what's sort of pretty standard for something like this. And I've got it in the softest setting. If I flick that over to stiff, it really becomes quite firm. So when you're driving in and around sort of city streets, it really is very brittle and firm over those. So yeah, I'm surprised by it, and I think it's probably something they've had to put in place given the mass of the vehicle. But it tips the scales at around 3,200 kilos, so it is a whopper of a thing, and as a result of that, they probably need to keep it nice and firm to keep it planted around corners. But anyway, now this top spec version, the quad motor, this is kind of their flagship and shows you just what they've been able to create with such force out of these electric motors. So 4 electric motors, 1 on each axle, and that means that you're getting over 600 kilowatts of power, which is ridiculous. It's only followed up by something equally ridiculous, which is over 1,200 Newton meters of torque. I mean, they are stupendous figures. And if you think back, I think it was Mercedes-Benz with their 12-cylinder AMG models, they were cracking 1,000 or 1,000 plus Newton meters of torque, and we thought that is outrageous. This to be doing that kind of torque output is simply insane. Now, I mentioned earlier as well, one of the biggest advantages of having 1 electric motor per wheel is that you have such incredible control over torque delivery and also torque vectoring. So it's not a case of simply braking wheels, which you can do in this instance, but you can throttle the amount of torque delivery you have. You can also do regen per wheel. Like, it is a really powerful system in terms of what you can actually achieve with it. Takes a lot of work to engineer it correctly, but when it is done correctly, you do have a lot of control over what the vehicle is doing, especially for off-road scenarios. That's where you're going to find that it is most rewarding. Now, off-road, let's talk about that briefly. We're not going to be doing any off-road driving because, like I said earlier, this is a rental and I don't want to get into trouble, don't want to damage someone else's car. But my good mates over at TFL, they have done a stack of off-road driving with both the R1T and the R1S. In fact, they've done a stack of videos towing off-road, on-road. So please go to their channel. I'm going to leave some links in the description below to see those videos and you can see how these vehicles perform off-road. Based on what I've seen though, they're excellent. And when you think about it, an electric vehicle should be excellent off-road because you don't have lag from the engine. I mean, you don't have lag from throttle applications. You don't have to worry about how you're going to manage torque across axles or across wheels. You're able to do everything here with the quad motor setup. So yeah, I think it is going to be very, very decent off-road. Now, if you are doing any towing, this has a 3.5 ton braked towing capacity. So, you know, it's able to achieve what you should be able to achieve in a vehicle this size. But do keep in mind, again, if you are towing with an electric vehicle, more weight you're adding to it, the faster it's going to drain through its battery. This has an average battery economy of just over 30 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks. We are currently averaging, so we have used a fair bit of electricity. So yeah, I mean, you can't get around that. Where we are now at the moment is outside of Los Angeles. It's about sort of 60 miles or so away from Los Angeles, and it was predominantly uphill, so granted it is going to consume more energy uphill. I'll be interested to see what the average is like when we finish with the vehicle and have gone back downhill as well. Now, what does all that feel like behind the wheel? Let's give this a kick. Oh, jeez. Far out, that is impressive. That is just in the normal mode as well. I'll run you through the other drive modes in a second, but that is something else. Moving a vehicle with a mass of over 3 tons like that is genuinely stupid. That is so cool. In terms of regen, it actually does a really nice job. So if you roll out of the throttle, it regens quite aggressively and will come to a full stop as well. So it has that single pedal driving, which is fantastic. I'll run you through the other drive modes. So all-purpose is kind of just your all-purpose drive mode. There you can set your ride heights. You can just leave that on automatic if you want. You've got regen settings, stability control settings, and then your ride settings as well. It just seems very hard is what it's constantly on. You've also got a mode called conserve. So this uses less energy. It tries to conserve the battery so that you can drive further. But what it also does is it disables the rear axle, and it means that it is just a front wheel drive vehicle. So I'll just give this a little kick here and see what that feels like. So, oh yeah, there is a massive difference there in terms of how quick that is. Like, it's not terrible, but you do notice that it doesn't feel anywhere near as urgent as it did when it was just in the normal mode. There's a sport mode, which I'll get to in a sec, and then you've also got a snow mode as well, where it'll adjust its traction controls so that you can get the best out of snowy driving conditions. Okay, I reckon we stick it in sport mode and go for a little bit of a fang here and see how this goes. Oh man, in sport mode it just defaults to that urgent driving mode. It also puts the suspension lower as well, so you're sort of sitting closer to the road. It is unbelievably quick. Like, when you get on the throttle, it is just constantly pushing you back into the seat. Brake pedal feels a little bit numb as well. That's probably the biggest issue here. You've got such a big, heavy vehicle. If you go and dive for the brakes after regen, it doesn't really have that pedal feel for you. Well, we've got a couple of corners coming up here. We'll see what it's like through the slower and faster corners. It is funny, when it's in its sport mode, it actually feels better when it's hunkered down. It doesn't feel as sort of jittery and nervous about itself. I just still can't get over how much torque this has. Yeah, it's on those bumps when it's in sport mode where it completely lacks body control. You know, it's hard to achieve that with such a heavy vehicle. You're never going to really have it feeling you know, like a sports car, and that's the biggest challenge they have, because you're ploughing so much torque through this thing. There's a sort of idea that it's going to be fast and all that sort of stuff, but you're just not getting the feedback that you need through the chassis. Steering feel isn't actually too bad, and the torque vectoring they're able to achieve when you're coming out of the corners and you're leaning on the throttle is actually really good as well. So there are some elements of this that are great, but I think the ride is probably the thing that needs work the most, because once you fix the ride, it will sort of make it feel a whole lot more dynamic. But it is possible. They've set the ride up in such a way that it's better for off-road driving as opposed to sporty driving. So yeah, look, the torque is tremendous. I mean, you're talking about sort of Ram 2500, 3500 big diesel engine torque here out of an electric vehicle. It is just that when you get to these corners, it feels a little bit unruly and not very settled. So that is going to be one of the big compromises you're always going to have to make with a 3-row electric SUV, because they carry a lot of weight and there's no easy way to get around that. The other thing I'll point on as well, road noise, it's not amazing, and again, you've got 21-inch wheels, low profile tyres. It will be, you know, a little bit noisy inside the cabin. So not the end of the world, but when you are on a coarse chip road like this, it is going to be evident inside the cabin that you are sort of driving on a rough surface. Okay, so let's do a little bit of performance testing. I found a quite stretch of road here. The claim is 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, which is out of this world. So let's give this a shot and see how it goes. Crazy. Oh man, that is genuinely ridiculous. I don't think I'll be getting sick of that anytime soon. Now let's have a look at those numbers. It's all just a blur. 0 to 100, so there it is, a little off the claim there, 3.69 seconds. So not exactly the 3 seconds we were hoping for, and it was slightly downhill as well. Typically though, you know, we're at 40% battery now, so you've got to be at closer to 100% battery to achieve those kinds of numbers, but still a really impressive effort. And the 0 to 60 actually is 3 seconds, so 100 is slightly longer than that. So yeah, and 80 to 120, 2.35 seconds. It's absolutely stupid. So there you go, that's my review of the Rivian R1S, the all-electric, off-road capable, big 7-seat SUV. So what do I reckon? Look, I think overall it is tremendously quick in a straight line. And just look at it, it just looks insanely cool. The inside's really nice as well. I think they've done a great job with the aesthetic and just giving you a really cool vibe about it. It is let down though by the handling and the ride. There's no getting away from the fact that it weighs over 3 tons and the ride really suffers from that. Also, some of the build quality bits and pieces that I sort of pointed out, we had like the air compressor overheat, so it wasn't able to rise or lower, it couldn't go into off-road mode. So stuff like that I think they really need to work on. But if you have a look at all of the brands that are doing EVs at the moment in that startup space, I think these guys really have a chance to succeed. So I do hope they come to Australia, because I'd love to own one of these, or maybe even the R1T, I don't know. I love them. So let me know what you reckon in the comments section below. Do you own one of these in the States? What has it been like longer term? And what is Rivian like to deal with? Where do you take it to get stuff fixed? I'm keen to better understand. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon as well. But till next time, take it easy.